So in this section, we're going to be talking about architecture, various types of ways that we can do the architecture. We're going to talk about sensors that we can deal with in the Android platform, and then the camera and how we can use the camera. So we've seen two different types of architecture so far in this course. We've seen the MVC, or the Model View Controller, which is what MV stands for. And then we have MVVM, which is Model View, View, and Model. And there are other types of architectures within that people have used for building Android apps, but we're going to stick to primarily MVVM, at least for new applications that we build. There are two kind of main parts of an Android app. We've got still the manifest, and then you've got all your components along with activity. Within an architecture, there's really two main parts of the architecture. There is the UI portion, which displays data to the user and then reacts to changes. And then we've got the data portion. And so we've got really the true source of the data down here in the data layer, and we only then show in the UI whatever is exists in the data layer. And then whenever we want to do some sort of click handling or sliding anything on the screen, that causes events. And the events then causes a message to get sent to the data layer. And then there might be then some changes that goes on in the data layer. And this data layer also contains where the business logic also happens. We kind of expand on the data layer. There's really two sections. There's the repository section, and then there's a data store. And the data store can have more than one kind of data store. You could have just one, which could be, let's say, just the local data store, which is storing things to the SQLite kind of database, or you could be retrieving or sending data to an internet RESTful API endpoint. And then we have then a network data store to deal with that. But the UI layer only really communicates down to the data layer through the repository, not directly to the data stores. The UI layer has really two parts. There is a screen. This is what we display and make for the user. And then we have something called state holder. And state holder allows you to sort of help hold the data or the current state of the application. And the screen could change, let's say, from portrait to landscape, but then the state would be the same. So when we build our Jetpack Compose, we still have our activity, which is like this main activity. And then the main thing that we do in the activity is, well, it's not the only thing, but the main thing we do in the activity is do the set content. And this would be the name of our composable. So whatever is the name of your composable, this would be the name of your composable. And you know, the data and the UI classes are sort of intertwined with each feature. So let's say that you have a feature called Bitcoins. So you would have a set of UI classes and data classes that are for a feature called Bitcoin. And there is concepts we can incorporate if we build a very simple app that we've so far have built, or we look at a more flexible kind of application, a more complex way of building the application. But this complex has some very good flexibilities in the terms of allowing you to build in more features without having your code too tightly fit with your application. So there is a sample application that Google has made called Now in Android. And if you take a look at the link that I provide for the Now in Android, you can then see how a well-built Jetpack Compose application is built out with that type of architecture. So what I did was I cloned the Now in Android project from the Google's GitHub repository, and I cloned it and I built it within the current version of Android Studio. And if you look here on the left side of how um, the application is laid out, there is a module called App. And you can also see that there are multiple um, build Gradle KTSs versus just two that we primarily have dealt with. And the reason why is that we have a set of features. So let's say that I have a feature called bookmarks, another one called search, and these would be features that have their own set of UI. Okay, so it would have their own set of UI. And this one would have its own set of UI here. And then all these features are used together, and they're integrated with the used by the app module. And then there is a core component here. And this core component has data models. It has also the model view layers, and all the even here you've got also the network data sources, and these are all the the data layer that's all composed of these various core modules. And altogether, these core modules are used together, let's say within one feature. So this one bookmark feature might use one or more of these core features, core modules, I'm sorry. Um, and but then these core modules are not directly used. They're not often directly used by the app, but the app directly more or less uses the features. And then the features are what uses the core modules directly. So if you build your application in this kind of manner, of this kind of architecture, then this allows you to do is one, it allows you to have a team of two or more people. And let's say that one team member takes care of all the bookmarks, and another team member takes care of search. And then there are less overlap or conflicts of working on components within the source code. And then there could be more people then also working on the core layers within the application. And what this also allows you to do is once you build this out, let's say that you want to do another feature, and let's say you want to do one that deals with chat. So you want to add a chatting feature within here, and it wouldn't overlap with any of these other features. So you could build out then a new feature called chat, and that chat feature could use one or more of these core modules, or it might need to build out a new core module functionality if this core functionality doesn't have what it needs. So coming back to the lecture slide here. So if we look back at reflect about what I showed you in the Now in Android sample application, we have that one module, which is the app, which ties in one or more features. And then there are one or more core modules, and those core modules get used by one or more of these features. And this allows you to separate out these sort of generic functionalities, let's say network data source, and you can make it very more generic or more general purpose. And then the features then uses the network data sources, or another feature uses saving data directly to a database. And these core modules are more generic and made so that they could be reused for different features. And this allows you to be able to tie in all these features into the app. It allows more collaboration in the team, and it promotes more specialization. Like you're going to put, let's say, just bookmarks in this feature one, and you're not going to put it in these other features. And it will also allow you to build out more testing code for testing within core one or feature one as you see fit. So the other next topic is about sensors and cameras. So there are many types of sensors within the Android platform, but I'm just going to focus in on just three of the sensors. Like I said, there are many other kind of sensors besides these. So there's motion, position, and environment. So for the position sensor, the position can sort of detect the orientation, the XYZ orientation of the device. And you can see how you might see how this gets used within video games, depending on how you hold your handset device. The video game might understand it as tilting or turning left or turning right, or jumping up or jumping down. Um, and then there's another thing about proximity, which is how far away an object is from the Android device. And this is commonly how we see how the phone screen turns off, depending on how close, let's say, our head is from the phone, that the phone screen will turn off once it detects that the head or the some sort of device is very close up to the phone, so then it's going to then dim or turn off the screen. The other very popular functionality on the Android device is the camera. And so using the camera, you can do two main things. You can capture pictures or video, and then you can also use it for an augmented reality kind of integration. And this is a more advanced topic beyond this course, but we're going to be focusing on using the camera module within this class. So I want you to also look at the lab video slides for this week. And that's where we're going to be able to understand how to integrate camera into a Jetpack Compose project. We're going to be using something called the CameraX library. So we call it so here we're adding the dependency of the CameraX library into the project, adding or integrating the permissions to use the camera feature on the Android device, and then initializing the access to the camera, capturing the image, and then doing a preview of the image on the phone. Some notes before we summarize this week's lecture is that the lab for the camera integration uses the latest version of Android, which is API 34. So I'm going to provide you with a sample app built with Jetpack Compose. And it was based on a tutorial that has a link here. If you click on that link, it will show you maybe a 2 or 3-year-old tutorial based on Jetpack Compose. But I have built from scratch a sample project that is based on that. It is not identical to that, but it is based on that. Okay.